Howdy everyone. Today we're going to kick off about 4 to 5 video series on Python utilizing Qt5 as a real high-level interface, and then interacting with some CSV files, some databases, and throwing in a little Excel just for fun. We'll also move some files around the background, just kind of tidy things up for us and automate it for us so we don't have to go manually do stuff like that. So I hope that you enjoy it. My name is Darren, and this is kind of my first video doing this, but I think you'll find it entertaining and hopefully informative. What we're going to do right off the bat, of course, is bring in some modules, and that's one of the fantastic things about Python is there are so many modules that can do so many things to help us out that we want to make sure we take advantage of those. So we're importing a couple of system things right off the bat there, and I'll kind of show you where we're going to use those. A couple of them will be optional for sure, and a couple of them will be helpful and pretty much required. And then coming from the Qt side, we have obviously things that we just have to bring in to make it work. So Qt widgets, for instance, is a very big module, has a bunch of sections to it, and we're just bringing in 4 in this case right now. We'll bring in a couple more a little later when we add some other additional input points. But for right now, that will take care of us to get us started. This video is going to focus on the setup of the window for the interaction, and then we will focus on each of the modules on separate videos after this. You'll notice I start off with a shebang here. I find it very good to go ahead and put that on there because I like automating some things. If I am using Python 3, if you are not using Python 3, and to find that out, you can use Python space dash capital V like Victor, enter, and it'll tell you what version of Python you're running. If that comes up saying Python 2, then do this command real quick and see if anything comes up. If nothing comes up here, or it comes up as an error that Python 3 is not a valid command, then that means you need to install Python 3. You just don't have it installed. If the first one comes up with a 2 something, and then the second one comes up with a 3 something, then that means that Python 3 is not your default. You can certainly make it a default if you don't wish to. Then just before you run our program each time, remember to do Python 3 and then the program name. So for instance, in my case, I'm calling it stockdb.py, so you would want to do that right there to run it each time, okay? To know what your shebang is, if Python 3 is your default, then just do which Python and make sure that you put that in where I've got Anaconda 3 bin Python, okay? If you are using Python 2 as your default, but you do have Python 3 installed, then you simply do that. And that'll tell you where your Python 3 is located. Oftentimes it's a local bin and things like that. So just to be sure that you get into the right place. All right, so that's just a little housekeeping stuff there. The next thing that we're going to do, and this is most certainly simply a preference on my part. You have no requirement to do this whatsoever if you don't want to. Like Bob Ross says, it's your world, right? So make it as you want it to be. I like to put a little clear command at the first part of my Python programs, because oftentimes I'm doing all kinds of wonderful productive things over here, and this gets really populated with a bunch of stuff. And sometimes I forget to hit Control-L on my Mac to clear that off before I run a program, so then my data gets hung in there, and I'm trying to find out where did I actually run the command and all that stuff. So this just cleans it off, makes it real easy. Again, if you don't want to do this, by all means don't. I did have this, it's written for both Windows and Mac and Linux. So even though I'm on a Mac, I know a lot of you guys are going to be on Windows, and so I want to make sure that we've got everything covered. Actually, I think, if I remember right, I got this off like Stack Overflow years ago. So I've made use of it pretty much ever since. All right, just for my own way I like to program. That's not required, but I'd like to do that. All right, so we're going to hop on down to the main function real quick. That's just another thing I like to do to get it set up so I can test easily going forward. So we'll do that real quick, and then we'll hop back up and actually define our classes and methods and fun stuff. There's our clear function right there that we just defined. Now these next pieces are things that we haven't yet defined, but that we will be doing in the very near future on this video. So just getting them set up. So that's our call to our Q application, and we just called it Q app. You can name that whatever you want, of course, as just a variable. Same thing with Q win, and same thing with DB window. That's just what I'm going to call our window, our main window. That'll be the object, but and we want to show that. So the key here, obviously, is if you change that Q win, you got to change that, right? So if you haven't experienced this before, then it's kind of one of your first adventures in programming, then you want to make sure you do that. And the same holds true with what I just typed on that Q app. Q app has to equal the Q app above. So whatever you want that to be, if you want that to be Timbuktu, change both of them to say Timbuktu, right? All right, so I'm just really creative. So I got DB window for my database window, right? So boom, there you go. Now we're going to, that's basically our main program right there. Boom, you're done. Congratulations. Now, of course, we want it to do something, so we're going to roll out a DB window, which is a Q widget. And this is a requirement so that we are actually doing something graphical here for us. And now we just want to init it. Oh, there we go. All right, now we're going to do a title because we want to have a title on the top of our window that we're about to create. So when I'm saying stock, just so everyone's on the same page, I'm talking about stocks like New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, okay? There's free data all over the internet. We're going to use some of it throughout this process just so we can have something to play with. It's good to have access to various types of data to play with and learn through. And then call it DB because we're going to be utilizing a database quite a bit in this. So the title piece is like right here. So when you have a window, you have this little lighter colored bar, oftentimes, depending on what your setup is. Here it says stockdb.py. That's the title area of a window. So I'll show you that to you once we actually produce our window. Our next part here is we're saying where to put this item, this window. So let's go this way instead. So we have self left, so we're saying come over from the side of the screen, come over 100. And then we're saying if we had said self top 100, it would be basically in this top corner up here. I'm saying 700 because I want it down here. I want it down lower to the bottom. And you'll see why in a couple videos if you stick with me. If you want it to go to the right side, my screen 1300 or so gets me around this area. So if I had said 13 for the left and then self-top equaling 100, that would put it up here. If I'd said 1300 and 700 or 800, it would put it down here. Okay, so just play with your screen and where you want it to be at to not interfere with other applications that you commonly have up, etc. Self-width. So we just told it where to go. Now we're going to tell it how big of a window we want to make. 300, I just said it's going to be plenty big for what we're going to do. We won't feel cramped, that's for sure. And then we've got 200 being our height. I think that'll work. I'll be surprised if we push that. So I think we'll be okay. So that's our setup of the window itself. Now let's set up what we want to go into that window. So going into the window, tell you what, let's do a label to start with. label, because we already added it in above, so we'll go ahead and do that and make use of it. And let's just say choose option for right now. Before I started this video, I thought of something else that we can put there, but it would be best if we bring that in later. So for right now, we'll just pull it in, choose option. And now we want to tell where in the window. So up here we're saying where to put the window itself. And again, you can move this window just like you can move any window, right? So you can click on that top bar up there and move it around if you want to. But initially it's going to go to 100, 700. Now we're saying inside our 300 wide by 200 high window, where do we want this choose option to show up? So let's just start. We're just going to play around a little bit here. We're going to do 130 by 20. So we're going to say it's coming in 130 in from the left and 20 from the top. All right. Now we can do some other buttons here as well, but we're first going to do a quit button because we want to just kind of have a way out of this cleanly while we're testing if possible. So if everything is running the way it should, we can get out of it very simply. So for Qt, it's called a Q push button. And then the verbiage that we want to be in there, let's keep it simple, right? Again, I'm not exactly the most creative of guys, so we'll go with quit. And then we'll go with BTNQ, or BTNQ, and that just stands for button quit, right? BTNQ. And we'll want to place that someplace. Let's left justify it because these buttons will be different sizes. We're not normalizing them. So 25, and we're just going to take a guess here. We're going to throw it at around 120 down from the top. So that should left justify it. And what's the point of doing a button, right? You create a button because you want someone to click on it or have the option to click on it. So we're going to do that. Give it that option and tell it what to do when it is clicked. So this is the action part. Fortunately for us, the good folks at PyQt have built it into their Q application process that you just do instance and then quit, and that gets you to quit. So that's a beautiful thing. We could run this right now, and it would bring up a box or a window somewhere around this area probably, and it would say choose option, and it would say quit. And that's what it would say. That would be it. It would not take into account any of this because we haven't yet told Python to actually do this for us. So before we run our first test, let's go ahead and include that piece into it just so we know, or we can make sure it's all working as we want it to be working. Self-title. So here we just pulled in our self-title variable that we have up here, right? Self-set. Now to do this stuff, PyQt calls it geometry. So set geometry. And now you have to tell it the different parts of the geometry that you want it to deal with for you. So self top, self width, self height. There we go. So we've told it everything. Now if you've not dealt with graphics programs very much and things like that, then you may not know this. But if you start dealing with like Pygame, Qt here in this case, Matplotlib, same thing. You go tell the computer exactly what you want it to do, fill in all these criteria, and then you have to tell it to show. If you don't tell it to show, you've done all that, and it's never going to pop up for you and show it the way you want it to show up. So we want to make sure we definitely pull that trigger. So before we start adding any more buttons to it, let's just test it and make sure it's working right. So I just saved it to make sure everything's looking good. Keep an eye on this right here real quick, and you'll see the clear function come into play for us. So I'm already in my folder that I want to be in, and so then I just type in, since I'm already on Python 3, I just have to type in Python. That's my default. If you're not default Python 3, but you do have Python 3 installed, type in Python 3, and then stockdb.py in my case. And I have an issue here. So on line 31, application. So what did I do wrong? Clicked, not click. That's the problem. I need to use the correct terminology, syntax. And there we go. So one, you see this right here, cleared the screen like we wanted it to do. We have stockdb up here. That's our title, right? All of the long lines there. Our choose option, that's off to the side. So we know our 130 is off, right? I'd say the height looks okay for right now. We'll see how it works when we add more buttons and stuff, but for right now it looks okay. And quit's down here kind of in this bottom corner, and it's kind of less justified. 25, I like that. That's not too far off the side. It's not too close. I like that. So does quit actually work? Yes, it does. All right, so quit took us right back. So that was fantastic. That's working well. We know this isn't working quite right, so we're going to go ahead and change this a little bit. We're probably going to overcompensate, but we'll see. We did 90. I almost guarantee that's overcompensated, but we'll throw it out there. Let's do some other buttons real quick. So we've got button 1. There's that creativity showing up again. Let's do Q push button, and let's say insert file. And this will all make sense in the next video when we start building into this program the actual functionality sides of it. This is all the presentation side. So move, we know we want to left justified at 25 again, so we're good there with 25. And we started off here at 20. Let's go down to like 40 coming off of that label. Labels don't have the same space take up that buttons have, so we can probably crowd it up a little bit. btn1, and now we got to do click, not click, dot connect, because again we want to tell it to do something for us once that's clicked. So we're going to call this method a stockdb insert, let's say. And now let's go ahead and just copy and paste down this a couple of times. Like that right there. And before we get carried away, let's change our numbers so we don't mess those up. That is the quickest way to make everything get funky, is to screw up your variable names. All right, so we've done that, and then we'll just work our way down. So we've got insert file at 2540 and stockdb insert. Fantastic. That was the first one in. So now we're going to change the verbiage that we put into our button on the second one. And let's just call this one daily report. We know we can't put it right on top of that one. So let's give it some space. We're going, since these are buttons and they kind of take up a little space, we're going to give it like 30 for right now. And we sure don't want to call the same insert function method. That would be kind of funky, right? We click insert file, it goes and inserts for us, and then we click daily report and it goes and inserts for us. That wouldn't work out too well for us. So we're going to make that one be daily. And then here, let's call this, since we're doing stocks, we'll call this a ticker report. And let's stay with our 30 concept. So 70 plus 30 is 100. And then here, let's do ticker. That work? Yeah, ticker. So staying with the same concept. Daily report is daily, ticker report is ticker, right? Clean that up just to make it consistent. And let's keep this consistent, so we'll make that 130 just to make it nice and even. All right. Okay, now if we try to run this right now, let me save it real quick since we put in the work to do it. If we try to run this right now, it's going to crash, all right? Because these are not defined. I'll show you what it does real quick. Hit the up arrow to show our last command, hit enter, and it crashes because we haven't defined where we're going with this, okay? So DB Windows saying, I want to go do a DB insert for you, but there is no DB insert to go do for you, so I can't do this. So as the last thing that we're going to do on this video is we're going to quickly define these functions just so we can then test what we're doing here and make sure everything is working the way it should be. All right. So stockdb insert self, and for right now we're just going to say return and def. Yes, you could definitely do copy paste here if you so desire. Return, but it's pretty easy since that's all I'm doing. Stockdb ticker self return. All right, so save it again. And again, watch this real quick. If you like the joy of that little system clear thing like I do, oh, it's so peaceful to see. And then here, you know, actually don't like that. That's a little too close. So we're going to raise that up here. But insert file, daily report, ticker report, quit. So our terminologies are coming through. right? We've got our title matching our title. We've got our choose option matching our label. And we have the terminology, the verbiage in each of our buttons showing appropriately. Oh, I didn't look at where it was sideways, see if that looked good. But we do want to do 10 for sure. So we'll pop that, do it one more time. Oh, that looks way better. And it's a little too far maybe that way, so let's actually make this about 100. And let's quit. And let's save. And this will be the last time I mess with you today, I promise. Yes, looking much better. All right, so there we go. So that's the end of this video. If you liked it, if you learned something from it, please hit like on there. If you are interested in seeing the next one, where we're going to go into the insert, where we're going to take some information and shove it into a database, and you'll be interested, I think, in seeing how we manipulate the files and error check them, then that'd be great. Feel free to hit subscribe. And make sure you hit the little bell if you do that, so it will let you know when I actually publish the next one. Hoping to do that in the next couple of days. And it's been great talking to y'all. Look forward to seeing you again. Have a good one.